Alright, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ron, and today we got a couple things to get into, man. We got that fucking crazy news with Damian Williams opting out, and now you got CEH in that spot. I'll go over how that affects his season-long redraft outlook. And I got my fool's gold running back. So guys that people are drafting as their RB2s that feel like extremely safe options, but they're going to end up just fucking up your team in the end, man. These are guys who aren't even good at the position, and you're drafting them purely on volume, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go.
I know I'm critical. My nitty bag, my kitty books. I got the juice, I got.
Alright, now first up, we got some crazy shit going on in Kansas City. We have CEH coming in for Damian Williams, who just opted out. CEH has no competition for that workload in that backfield, and to me, I have him as my RB5. And it's because I see him literally slotting into the Kareem Hunt role. He has the same skill set. Patrick Mahomes is gonna find ways to get him the ball. And I heard a stat today from Nick Orcolano that running backs in the Kansas City offense average 1.74 rushing touchdowns per game with Patrick Mahomes on their center. So whoever's gonna get the majority of the opportunity is going to be insanely good in fantasy this year, man. Now CEH is my RB5, and you can see where he sits in that first round in my rankings. I have the quarterback tiers, running back, wide receivers, tight ends, all in a spreadsheet. You can download it to Google Drive. You can download it to Excel. It's all there on RonStewartDraftGuide.com. You can get it down below. And he's RB5, and he's somewhere in that first round range. I have him on 25% of best ball teams, man. So this is some great fucking news for that boy CEH. All right, now the first fool's gold running back that I have for you guys is David Montgomery. Man, I hate this boy. David Montgomery is so sorry, and I usually build the case up starting at the college level and then breaking it up and going step by step. But we're gonna go top down with David Montgomery. We're gonna start with the 2019 season, and we'll work our way back. So in 2019, Montgomery was getting drafted as the RB22 at the 410 spot in redraft leagues. So this is 0.5 PPR leagues, and he finishes the RB25. Now you go and look at those numbers, you're like, well, I got what I drafted. You know, I got him as the RB22. He finishes an RB25. That's like decent RB2 production, right? And that sounds like fine return. And it sounds like, oh, my pick didn't bust, whatever. Well, actually, he was kind of shitting the bed every week. This guy only he only gave you startable weeks 31.3% of the time, and he had the 36th best start percentage among running backs on ESPN. So these are the amount of times. This is the percentage of times that he finished as an RB25 or better in a given week. So he's compiling all these numbers after the season's done because he plays all these games. But in terms of week by week, he's not giving you anything that you can put into your lineup and feel good about. When he's sitting there, if you're getting a guy that you can only start on 31.3% of weeks, how is he a safe and reliable RB2? This isn't a player you want to start every week. And there isn't much room for him to grow as we go into 2020. There's Tariq Cohen there. So David Montgomery's, he's not getting any fucking more targets. So there's such a little room for improvement because he has Tariq Cohen taking away targets, and he had the 13th most carries in the NFL last year. So where are they going to somehow miraculously give him more than the 13th most carries? He already had 242 carries. There's no way that they can give him more, especially when you factor in the game script. They're behind in a lot of these games. It's hard to stick the ball in the belly of your running back when fucking Mitch Trubisky is throwing interceptions and he's sucking it up on the field. So now David Montgomery can't get the carries he needs, and he can't get the targets and benefit from the negative game scripts that a Tariq Cohen is getting out of the backfield. Let's say in a magical world where they have a good quarterback, or not a good quarterback, they just don't have negative game scripts. If he gets 20, 30, 40 more carries, how much is that truly helping his week-to-week sustainability? Because let's say 40 carries over a 16-game season is... That's like 2 or 3 more carries a game. How much is that going to move the needle on that 31.3% start rate? He's giving you that, and you could be like, oh, well, he's not getting the targets because Tariq Cohen. Now let's just even we've already made the case. There's not much for him to grow. It's hard to see him getting more targets or more carries because of game scripts than Tariq Cohen. Now let's go down. Let's just say, you know what? Maybe he's an exceptional player, and he can break out of that fucking mold. He can somehow beat all these circumstances because he's just if you put Saquon Barkley in Chicago, he's gonna ball out. Now, here's the thing: you look at the metrics, and objectively, he is shit. He's objectively a bad running back. He was outside the top 50 in true yards per carry, yards per touch. He was outside the top 40 in yards created per touch. So from an efficiency standpoint, he was doing nothing on the field. He's averaging 3.5 yards per carry. There's nothing you can cling on to and be like, hey, David Montgomery, you know what? He's in a bad situation. Mitch Trubisky, whatever, but he's a good player. He's not. When you look at the stats, he's not producing effectively on a per touch base. And when you look at the evaded tackles and juke rate, people love to point at that and say, oh, but he was top 15 in there. Well, what? Well, you have to ask yourself, what is that fucking accomplishing? If he's averaging 3.5 yards per carry, but he has a high juke rate, what is the point of breaking tackles in the jukes? Everybody in the film community loves David Montgomery because he's juking, he's making it look pretty on film. But what is that really accomplishing when you juke out somebody before the line of scrimmage and you get 3 yards on the play? What is that really doing? Or what is that giving us in value as fantasy gamers? But here's this thing, guys. I'm telling you, David Montgomery is terrible. Even going back to his college days. Now, he was breaking tackles at Iowa State too, and that's why people liked him, and that's why he got drafted in the 3rd round. But look at his player profiler. He was slow and athletic. He was under the 55th percentile across all workout metrics, and he didn't dominate in college, and he had a 4.7 yards per carry in college, which is among the 18th percentile. I guarantee you he was doing the same shit. He was doing the same, like, juke and spin out to 1 or 2 guys, and then he falls on his face for 3 to 5 yards. What is the point of all that if you're not making yards? And the problem is that he lacks burst and he lacks long speed. So let's say he's elusive before 5 yards. What else is he giving you if he can't beat the second level and get to the first down marker, get past that? He has no burst, he has no speed. The guy, he lacks speed and he lacks talent. He's a bum, and I'm telling you, there's no room for him to grow. He has a bad QB, his receiving is capped by Cohen, he has bad game scripts, lack of scoring opportunities. I don't see the upside in this guy, and sure, you're getting him at the RB25 this year, but he's probably going to finish, what, in the RB24 to RB29 range? And I already broke down for you why that doesn't help you. Because those are the season end numbers. You want to look at a points per game from a points per game standpoint, and David Montgomery was the RB29 in points per game last year. So now you're getting a guy who is outside the top 24 running backs in a points per game setting, and that's not somebody you can just plug into your lineup every week. You have to remember, when we're in these seasonal leagues, we're depending on these guys every single week. We're not just fast forwarding to the end of the season and saying, oh, well, you got this running back. No, when you have to start David Montgomery every week, he's hurting your lineup. And I don't see the appeal at RB25, and he's somebody that I don't have on any single one of my teams. And if you have him on your teams after watching this video, I don't want you here, man. This is a guy that he's the sure mark of whoever has this guy on his team has no clue what the fuck he's doing, man. So I'm telling you, he's a compiler. He's startable only 30% of the time. Do not draft this boy, David Montgomery. All right, next we have Raheem Mostert, who is another guy who's a fool's gold running back. He's the quintessential trap at RB26 in the 6th round. This is somebody people are going to cling on to and say, oh, but the 49ers are this, the defense is good, there's rushing opportunities, whatever. They're going to talk themselves into this little fucking story that Raheem Mostert's going to be the guy in this offense. And before I even break any of that shit down, you have to look at where you're drafting guys like Mostert and Montgomery. Let's take a step back here. Let's zoom out. Picture this. Would you rather have Raheem Mostert or David Montgomery? Or would you rather get Tyler Lockett, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen? These are all wide receivers going in that range. And when you take a guy like David Montgomery or Raheem Mostert, it never feels good, man. What I'm doing in those spots, I usually have a running back or two by the 6th round, so I don't have to pick between guys like David Montgomery and Raheem Mostert. And if I'm picking in this range, I've made videos on this in the past. I'm going for DeAndre Swift. I'm shooting for upside. These are both guys that don't feel like they have, in their range of outcomes, a top 15 points per game finish. I don't have them anywhere. No best ball, no fucking redraft, a dynasty. I don't own Raheem Mostert or David Montgomery anywhere. I don't want to hear about this Raheem Mostert hype. Last year was an outlier year. This is an obvious trap. Raheem Mostert, we're going to look back on and be like, okay, we were wilding with this take. There's no way that Raheem Mostert is for real. I'm telling you guys, he before last season he had 297 rushing yards total in his career, and he's 28. He's objective, like again, he's objectively not a good running back, and for that reason I don't want him on my fantasy team. He's undersized at 5'11", 186 pounds with a 0th percentile BMI, and was undrafted out of Purdue. He literally doesn't have the profile of a lead back, and he's old at this point, so it just tells you that what happened last year was one of those one-off things that happened in the NFL. Like Peyton Hillis. There's plenty of examples where some random shit happens in the NFL, And it's because that's what football is. It happens when there's injuries. Tevin Coleman's hurt, Jerick McKinnon, so somebody will step up and be the next man up. But I'm telling you, there's no way that in 2020, Raheem Mostert somehow goes from next man up to the man in the offense. When you want to look at it, he ran a 4.42, and I'm shying away from that. That was only in the 53rd percentile for adjusted speed score because of how small he is, because of the 0th percentile BMI. He profiles as an average size change of pace type back. He's a guy like a Mike Davis type or somebody who's just literally just a jag. There's no way that he is actually a objectively good running back that a coach would ever look at and be like, yes, he needs 250 touches. I'm telling you, there's no way that's going on in the coach's office over in San Francisco. He has to compete with Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Jeff Wilson, and JaMychal Hasty. And now you might even look at JaMychal Hasty and Jeff Wilson and be like, well, why'd this man even say that? Like now you're just listing the running back core. There's no way that they're better. But look, it would not shock me if by the year's end, any of those 4 guys are leading this backfield in points per game, because that's what happened last year in San Francisco. If I told you about Raheem Mostert last year, when I was talking about Tevin Coleman, you wouldn't have even took it seriously. This backfield is just going to be next man up. So drafting Raheem Mostert in this premium position at RB26 in the 6th round with those receivers around, it's not a good move because it's so expensive, and there's no reason to pay up for him when you can get the discount on guys like Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon. And like I said, the only reason that Mostert performed last year was because of Tevin Coleman, high ankle sprain, and Jerick McKinnon had a season-ending injury. The bottom line is that Raheem Mostert only had 6 weeks as an RB2 or better and only earned 22 targets last season. And on top of this touch squeeze in the backfield and the price you're paying for it, now you have to look at the 49ers from a run standpoint. And Kyle Shanahan, the genius that he is, I don't think that he's in the coach's room scheming up these, like, yes, we need to run the ball the second most times in the league, because they ran it at the second highest rate in the league in terms of run to pass ratio. Yet they were only the 12th most efficient run unit in the league. Now, when you look at the Ravens, they were first in run to pass ratio, but they were also first in run efficiency in the league. So the Ravens, they're running the ball by choice, whereas it feels like the Niners are only running because they were up so much in games, and they could just sit back on their lead and just put the ball in the stomach of Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, all these nonsense running backs, because they had the blocking for it and because they had the lead for it. But in terms of efficiency, the volume, the numbers don't line up, where the 49ers are this insanely good running team, and that's what they want to do. Expect Raheem Mostert to be the next Thomas Rawls, man. I'm not touching him in fantasy, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on him as a fool's gold running back. All right, man, if you made it this far, I appreciate the fuck out of you, man. Go down below, subscribe, leave a like, comment, follow my Twitter at @RonStewart_. If you like this video, let me know. If you disagree with the Raheem Mostert or David Montgomery takes, go down below, let me know. Maybe one of you guys will change my opinion, but I highly doubt it. Draft guides down below, ronstewartdraftguide.com. There's tiers there. You just download it into Google Drive, Google Sheets, fucking Excel sheets. You get that shit for $10. Win your league. Best draft guide in the game. All right, man. Made it this far. I appreciate it. As always, I'll see you in the next one.